What is going on, everybody? Crypto Ed here, and welcome to our session two of day two for CoinFest. I'm excited to feature to you two of the biggest movers and shakers within the Fantom network, Fantom Opera network, and as we all know that there are a lot of great project great chains, great protocols out there, and it's important for us to understand the fundamentals of the network before even getting into it. I've seen a lot of people jumping into new chains and getting wrecked, and if you don't understand the fundamentals, like you are bound to get wrecked. And this is why I'm excited to introduce to you Austin from FTM Networks and Simone from the Fantom Foundation. So both of you guys, you guys have the stage.
Ed, you're the man. Thanks, buddy. Simone, kick us off. Kick us off. I'll jump in after you.
Austin, yeah, sure. So first thing, I thank you very much for having us. I'm Simone. I'm the CMO at the Fantom Foundation, and here's Austin, the one and only FTM alerts.
Oh man, thanks, Simone. Yeah, so my name is Austin. I'm the founder of an organization called FTM Alerts. We have essentially, we didn't mean to, but it kind of happened this way, become the #1 influencer kind of organization within the Fantom network. There's about 20 of us. We're all community, nonprofit. Essentially, the goal of what we originally set out to do was kind of like be a notifications channel for new projects that are building on Fantom. We can let the community know about it. What has ended up happening through, just I guess nature taking its course, is we've kind of become the bond between the Fantom community and the developer community. So we're kind of giving new people that are building upon Fantom a voice and a silver bullet to reach the Fantom community, which helps them to become a little bit more popular. So we have you might notice we might be a little bit more high energy than, like grab a coffee because we like to have fun with this stuff. Simone and I are on camera all the time talking Fantom, and we love doing it. So I think what we were going to do is, take the first 15-20 minutes. We have a slide presentation that we're going to run through with you, and then we're going to wing it after that, and we don't know what's going to happen. So let's get after it. Let's see here. Let me just share my screen with y'all. One sec. All right. Okay, slideshow. Where are we at? We're at the end. Can't start at the end, guys. Okay. Simone, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, but we're very at the end now, the presentation. So
wait, this is the very end? Oh, crap. I
yes.
thought we were at the beginning, man. Oh, damn. All right, hang on, y'all. Let me fix this. Let's just go to 1. Oh, now we're at 1. Okay. You're up, bud.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, we're gonna talk about Fantom. What is Fantom, and as this slide says, Fantom is a high-performance blockchain network. Let's go to the next slide, Austin, and perfect. And Fantom is no, sorry, the one before. No, before.
I think it's auto playing, man. Hang on.
Oh, okay.
It's kicking a slideshow, which is not what we wanted, man. All right, I told y'all I didn't know what I was doing. Hang on.
No, don't do slideshow. Click on the start from the beginning.
You got it, dude. Okay.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Now go to the next one.
Next one, please. Okay, this is a brief summary of what we're going to talk about. So what is Fantom? How is Fantom different from the other layer 1 networks? And an overview of the Fantom ecosystem. That's, I think, then we're going to talk about more in depth about the Fantom ecosystem after the presentation, because this is what we usually do, Austin and I. So, well, let's go to what is Fantom, and Austin, if you want to take over, let me know. Otherwise, I'll keep going. Up to you.
I'll jump in anytime, man. One thing I think that might be worth mentioning for anyone that is actually, instead of what is Fantom, let's start with why is Fantom? Like why did Fantom come about? Why is Fantom even necessary, right? We got 1,000 different networks out there. And is it just, people trying to bust into the blockchain space, or are there actually problems that are getting solved, right? And so, we just heard a absolutely amazing presentation from Harold right before this, right, about Bitcoin. And man, that dude, Harold, you did your homework, man. But anyhow, so Bitcoin brought blockchain, right? Blockchain, the underlying technology that enables all of this to essentially exist, an immutable ledger, which allows transactions to happen. I'm not going to get into it. He just did a really good job with it. Fast forward a few years, and with the introduction of Ethereum, we are given now smart contracts, right? And a smart contract is essentially an agreement written in code that can be executed without the need for a trusted third party to execute it. So what does that mean in like regular words? So if Ed and I wanted to take a bet on what the weather in Florida is going to be tomorrow, right? And we're both going to put in $100, we could put it into the smart contract. As soon as the weather actually hit for tomorrow, whoever the winner was, the contract could disperse that money out to the winner. But then we get into oracles. We don't really need to talk about all of that. But here's what ended up happening, right? So the invention of smart contracts was like major on the scene. This changed everything. And if you look at the Ethereum network and the amount of activity and the amount of projects that are built on there, you go, holy crap, this is a real deal. But what ended up happening over time, Ethereum block speeds are roughly 15 seconds a piece, which compared to the 10 minutes of Bitcoin was like lightning fast. But as people started to build upon Ethereum, gas fees went up, the price of Ethereum went up. You want to transact yesterday with the market cratering, you might have paid like $800 to get a transaction through, right? And this is completely, this is a huge barrier for most people to enter this market, right? And another thing that does, unfortunately, is it prevents a lot of innovation because people that want to innovate don't have the cash flow to necessarily do so. So now what is Fantom might really make a lot of sense for anyone that's transacted on the Ethereum network. Let's move on. Okay. All right. Hope it wasn't too far all over the place. So Fantom is a fast, scalable, and secure layer 1 network, which is built on a permissionless ABFT consensus protocol, which stands for asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerant consensus protocol. I'm not going to try and explain to you what that is, but Simone might be able to a little bit better than I can. You want to jump in, man?
Sure. I can. However, I would say I can in a couple of slides.
Okay. All right. Let's.
And I hate doing
then.
this, but because otherwise, otherwise it's gonna be hard if we don't follow exactly at least the slides.
You got it, man. Let's keep going here.
So let's go before going deep into the what is the consensus and how it works, and how it's a huge improvement, compared to Bitcoin, as you said, or even Ethereum. Let's look at the most, the key features and the main differentiations between, say, Fantom and, most of other layer 1 networks. And these are speed, low fees, and EVM compatibility. So Austin, if you want to take over, you can, otherwise I'll go.
Yeah, man, I'll jump in here. So, all right, so we just talked about the block speeds for Ethereum, 15 seconds. And back when Ethereum came out, man, that was lightning fast, right? And for a network with, maybe a few thousand transactions, 100,000 transactions a day, maybe, that's perfectly fine, right? And everything's going to get done in the amount of time that you want it to get done. But for your more aggressive DeFi applications, especially when you get into enterprise, talking about, I don't want to get into the smart city thing, but anything that needs a high throughput, that needs quick time to finality, you're going to run into some issues with a 15-second block time. So the second is low fees. Now, if you try and go transact on Ethereum, I'm not trying to talk bad about Ethereum, but the fact is, if you try and go transact on Ethereum right now, you're probably going to be paying $50 to $100 plus just to get a transaction out. On Fantom, the transactions cost roughly a few cents, depending on network activity and how the gas is at the particular time. EVM compatibility, this is extremely important, right? So you see a lot of layer 1 networks popping up, and most of them will tout that they're EVM compatible, which they are. And essentially what that means is that it's compatible with what's called the Ethereum virtual machine. So in the most layman's terms I can explain this, because that's the only words I have, developers who are used to building on the Ethereum network can port over to the Fantom network in about 5 minutes. The smart contracts are written the same way. It operates the same way. The account that you own on Ethereum is literally the same account you own on Fantom. You just need to change the network in your MetaMask account. So it makes moving over and shifting very, very easy. Okay.
Perfect. Yes.
On we go.
Yeah, and just one thing about the speed, right? So that one block right now, so the block time on Fantom is a little bit variable. It's not fixed like on Ethereum and Bitcoin, for example. You know, we know that Bitcoin is roughly around 10 minutes. Ethereum is around 15 seconds. Right now on Fantom, that block time is around 800 milliseconds. And that's pretty much the speed of a transaction final and confirmed on Fantom. So it's less than a second. And it's variable without, we don't need to go into why it's variable, but, just so you know, if we were seeing at especially at the beginning of the year when there weren't many transactions on the network, then of course there's no need to produce blocks. And so let's say that in that case of very, very low network activity that I don't believe we're ever going to see again, because we're really talking, a transaction every, I don't know, every 30 seconds, every minute or so. In that case, the block time is a little bit higher. So it's around 2 seconds. And if there's no transactions, the network anyway generates blocks around, roughly every 2 seconds or so. But, back to today's scenario, back to today's network activity that we're seeing, we're going to see later, it really increased, and it keeps increasing since a few months ago. The block time is around 800 milliseconds, so the transaction time is around, around that time as well.
Do you think we should get into time to finality and why that sort of thing is important?
Yeah, that's quite important. So there's a big difference between TPS that many layer one network like to use, not many layer one, well, some layer one networks like to use as a sort of a measure of speed, right? So, this network can do, I don't know, 10,000 transactions per second. This network can do 50,000 transactions per second. Now, there are two problems with the transaction per second metric. The first one is that there's no standard to actually count those transactions per second. So some networks count all the transactions, including the messages between validator nodes, and those can be many messages, increasing thus the sort of TPS count. And so without, of course, when there's no standard to count things, it's pretty much meaningless to even count, right? If everyone counts the TPS metric in a different way, then it's pretty much useless. And the other thing, it really, it doesn't really measure the speed, rather it measures the throughput, right? So let's say that when you say that, in the example of Fantom right now, it's limited actually by the Ethereum virtual machine. And even in that case, it can reach, say, theoretically around 3,000 to 4,000 transactions per second. However, it doesn't mean much, because if a network can do 4,000 transactions per second, but then it needs, 10 minutes to confirm and make those transactions final and irreversible, then it really doesn't mean much. It doesn't matter if it can do such a high capacity of transactions if they're not confirmed, right? So a much more meaningful metric to measure speed is actually time to finality, or TTF. And in the case of Fantom, the time to finality is around 1 block. So 1 block time, which means, we go back to that, let's say 800 milliseconds, or, let's take an average, and the average, let's say it's 1 second average of finality. On Fantom, we're going to see, when we're going to talk about the consensus mechanism, the transactions, once they enter the network, they're final and irreversible as soon as they enter the network. That's because of the, let's call it special consensus mechanism that Fantom uses. And, to remind you, it's called ABFT consensus mechanism, asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerant consensus mechanism. Let's take Bitcoin, for example, right? So we know that Bitcoin block time is roughly 10 minutes. However, the time to finality of Bitcoin is currently considered between 30 to 60 minutes. That's because one block confirmation on Bitcoin is not enough. Because on Bitcoin, if you have enough, say, monetary capacity to make a 51% attack, that one confirmation can be reversed. The blockchain can be forked, and that the one confirmation is not going to be enough to actually make that transaction final. That's why when you send funds to an exchange, for example, usually you have to wait for at least a couple of confirmations on the Bitcoin network. Same thing on Ethereum, right? We were saying that Ethereum has roughly a 15 seconds block time, and similarly to Bitcoin, a transaction on Ethereum is considered final after a few confirmations. So we still have to wait a few minutes. And back to Fantom, there's no need to wait for any confirmation after the first one, and the first one happens pretty much instantly, in average of 1 second. So these are very, very big differentiation that is important to make. TPS is usually really like a vanity metric with no standard, and everyone can kind of say whatever they want. Also because right now there's no blockchain that even achieved, like in practice, in real use, achieved thousands of transactions per second. If you also look at Fantom, look at Avalanche, look at Polygon, look at Solana, usually we're talking about 30 to 50 transactions per second. This is not because the network cannot support more, but simply because there's not as much activity to make more than those transactions. And already doing on Fantom, doing 50 transactions per second, 100 transactions per second. And once again, it's because that's the usage that is happening at this moment. It's already a massive improvement compared to Ethereum or even Bitcoin. Bitcoin, to give you a reference, can process around 7 transactions per second. So yeah.
Let's go. Let's go. Oh, that was awesome, dude. All right. On to the next one, man. I'm gonna let you. Do you mind keeping going here?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
This is getting a little bit technical, but let's try to. I'm going to make it very simple. So the core architecture of Fantom is made of 3 layers, and these 3 layers are specifically designed for high volumes, precise execution, and interoperability. Now we're going to see, each one of these layers so we understand a little bit better how the architecture of Fantom works. So let's go to the next slide. And at the very base, you can imagine, you can remember, if you remember the previous slide, it's literally, 3 layers. So the bottom layer, the base layer, is the consensus mechanism. You can think of the consensus mechanism as sort of an engine, right? So if you think about a car, if you remove the engine from the car doesn't work. Same thing in a blockchain network. You remove the consensus mechanism, there's no network. Now, on Fantom, the consensus mechanism is called lachesis. And as we said, before, it's an ABFT, asynchronous Byzantine fault-tolerant consensus. And in more simple terms, it's a gossip about gossip protocol. Now, let's see what the gossip about gossip protocol means, and let's see it with an example, how transactions are transmitted across the network. In lachesis, let's say a network participant called Alice will tell another participant called Bob, who's picked at random, all the information she knows so far. Alice will keep doing the same with different random participants, and Bob and all the other participants will all do the same as well. This way, if a single participant becomes aware of a new information, the information will spread exponentially fast through the community until every participant is aware of it. So it's basically, gossip about gossip. Think about, people at a party, and one person start, spreading a gossip, and this gossip basically quickly permeates the whole room and spreads very fast. That's how Fantom achieves consensus. So the participants achieve consensus asynchronously, resulting in very fast transactions. And as I was saying before, this is very different from other consensus mechanisms, like for Bitcoin or Ethereum, for example, where consensus is achieved synchronously. That coordination, the make the consensus synchronous, takes a lot of time. And as I said, 10 minutes for Bitcoin, 15 seconds for Ethereum. Whereas, on Fantom, that asynchronicity allows for very, very fast transactions. Now we can go to the next slide, and to sum up what Lycasis is. So Lycasis is asynchronous, and participants have the freedom to process comments at different times. As I'm keep repeating, since the beginning, transactions get confirmed and finalized as soon as they enter the network. There's no waiting for block confirmations like on Bitcoin. And there's a very good example that actually Mike Kong, Fantom CEO, likes to make, and this actually fits very well here. So Bitcoin, you can think of Bitcoin as a sort of a regular train, right? So there's going to be a few passengers that are at the train station. They know that at every 10 minutes a train is stopping by, and they can hop on and and go on with their journey. Fantom instead is sort of almost an on-demand train. So as soon as there's demand for that train, people can get on it, and as soon as there's demand for transaction, the network is ready to confirm and finalize. This is, it makes it super, super clear. Now, Lycasis, so the consensus mechanism, also makes the network fast and inexpensive. Once again, transactions are finally in an average of 1 second and cost very little compared to Ethereum and compared to most other layer 1 networks. So the fees on Fantom go from a fraction of a cent to a couple of cents, depending on the complexity of the transaction itself. Then, the consensus mechanism, it's secure. It supports up to 1/3 of faulty nodes. It means that, up to 33% of the network can go down and the network still works fine. And lastly, this is very, very important. Fantom and its consensus are leaderless. So no participant plays a special role. There's no round robin like on practical BFT consensus, or an elected council like on delegated proof of stake, or anything like that. So this means that anyone can join as a validator node to validate transactions on the network and at any time, and they can leave at any time. Granted that they have the requirements to join the network. That's just basic requirements for security and to run the node itself. But compared to, say, delegated proof of stake, where only, I don't know, say 50 nodes can join the network, and they oftentimes they have to do KYC and stuff like that. On Fantom, it's absolutely not the case. So once again, anyone can join and leave the network at any time. No need to do any KYC or really anything. It's completely leaderless and permissionless. And we can go to the next slide to talk about the middle layer, the middleware. This is already, Austin already touched on the EVM compatibility. And so Fantom is EVM compatible and fully interoperable, which means that developers can deploy smart contracts written in Solidity and Viper. So anyone that is familiar already in deploying writing and deploying contracts on the Ethereum network can do so pretty much instantly and really at a fraction of a cent on Fantom. Now, this is also a big difference and an important feature of Fantom. So if you're a developer and you want to deploy a DApp, a DApp can, depending on the complexity of the DApp, and some DApps have, numerous smart contracts to deploy. On Ethereum can get very expensive to deploy those smart contracts, up to, like we're talking several thousands of dollars. And sometimes these are just experiments, right? And so as an Ethereum developer, oftentimes you find out, you realize that you deploy something on Ethereum, you spend your several thousands of dollars, and then you have to redeploy again because, you made a mistake somewhere, you have to fix the contracts. And this makes it's really, really, as Austin was saying, it's limiting the innovation that can happen in the blockchain space. On Fantom, as you're a developer, you can deploy your contracts first thing in a couple of seconds, and also really just paying a few cents to deploy them. Yeah, and hearing by listening to the feedback that developers give us all the time, we're in constant touch with contact with developers on Fantom. They really, really like this sort of, let's call it, feature of Fantom, which is the speed and the cost to deploy smart contracts. And then lastly, there's the top layer, and the top layer is the application layer. And this is the user-facing layer, so to speak. This is where end users interact with the network. It can be through smart contracts, dApps, decentralized applications, and on-chain governance as well. And so Fantom is quite unique under that aspect because all network decisions are made through governance proposals. And anyone that stakes on the Fantom network can make a governance proposal, and anyone that stakes on the Fantom network can vote on that governance proposal. Yep. So this is pretty much it about the core architecture of Fantom. And if we go to the next slide, we're going to see the key takeaways. And so we said high performance, so fast deterministic finality, very low fees, EVM compatibility. Then the scalability, Fantom can scale up to hundreds of nodes, even though our goal, in a few years with, improving the consensus, improving the technology, is actually getting to thousands of nodes. And currently, again, let's talk about TPS, but it's really not relevant. Fantom can achieve 3,000 to 4,000 EVM-based TPS. Then lastly, security. Of course, Fantom is a blockchain-based immutable ledger. It's permissionless, a leaderless proof-of-stake protocol that uses distributed nodes. So not, of course, a central database. And this is pretty much it for the tech stuff.
Holy moly. I love it, dude. You got a drink there? I would get cotton mouth talking about all that, man. There's just so many big words coming out, man. All right. I love it. So I'll jump in here, and I'll probably defer back to Simone in one or two slides because I won't know what we're talking about. But so how is Fantom different from other layer 1 networks? This is really important. So almost instant finality, right? Simone hit on that. Low fees, and we're talking about, depending on the complexity of the smart contract that you're interacting with, from a few cents to, I don't know, 10, 20 cents, depending on the network activity at the time. Permissionless and leaderless, which are extremely important for the operation of the network. On-chain governance. So there is an application built upon Fantom called the F Wallet, which is, how would you classify the F Wallet, Simone?
So the F Wallet is actually, well, it's a wallet where yes, where people can of course store their FTM, but also stake their FTM, and also they can vote on governance proposals and create governance proposals.
Bingo, exactly. So there's a unique, fully decentralized voting system, revolutionary complex voting within the ability to express the level of agreement within proposals besides yes or no. And what gives you the ability to vote within this system is the Fantom that you have staked on the network. So you've got to have some skin in the game. That's important. This is a permissionless proposal system. Any FTM staker can make a proposal, right? So I could go in there tomorrow and say, I propose Simone wears blue glasses on all the live streams. And whether he takes that proposal or not is, really up to him, but I could go do it, right? All right, let's keep going here. So the Fantom UX, seamless onboarding user experience. We talked about that already. It works, identical to Ethereum. If you're used to operating on Ethereum, you add a simple new network into your MetaMask and switch networks, and boom, here you are. We have fast and cheap cross-chain bridges. A lot of those are most of the bridging is being facilitated by AnySwap, the AnySwap network right now. I do know that there are some other bridges that are popping up around. We've got Evo DeFi, and then we've got the Xpollinate bridge, a few of the other ones. AnySwap tends to get most of the transactions there. And Ethereum on steroids. I love it. So we've got MetaMask, we have FTM Scan, which if you're used to Etherscan, FTM Scan is like a brother sister there. Solidity and Viper, the languages that smart contracts are written in. We have oracles, we have Chainlink on Fantom, we have BAM protocol, we have DIA that just launched on Fantom recently. There's a whole ton of like custom oracles that were built by developers that they're just using in their own individual dApps if they don't require something a little bit more secure. APIs, node infrastructure, we have Anchor, we have Casper. I don't want to get too far into Casper, but he's awesome. He has just done so much for the Fantom network. He put together an RPC node aggregator when we were just little babies. We had just opened up and we were starting to get some traction, and the nodes were getting overwhelmed. And he's like, I'm gonna come in and fix this. And he's a community member, and he totally did. And he ended up selling that to Anchor, which good for him, man. That was awesome. And the Fantom ecosystem, my most favorite thing to talk about. I talk about it all day long. I've kind of dedicated my life to talking about this. My wife is sick of hearing about it. Let's get into it. All right. So we have roughly 75,000 daily active users, and we are on an upwards trajectory there as more dApps are built within the network. I mean, that's essentially the thing that brings people over from other networks. We have 1.25 million unique addresses on chain right now. Roughly 750,000 daily transactions, unless Andre tweets, and then that's going to triple. And roughly $5 billion in total value locked between the various DEXs and decentralized applications. And we have 100 plus decentralized applications from DEXs, which are like Spooky Swap, Spirit Swap, F-Bomb. We love F-Bomb. There's a whole bunch of new DEXs that are popping up. Lending and borrowing, right? So we have our first lending protocol was Scream.sh, which is a fork of Compound v2. So if you've ever used Compound, Scream is just like using that. We also have Geist on chain now, which is an Aave fork, right? So if you've ever used Aave, pretty much the same thing. We actually recently got a borrowing aggregator. I don't know if you saw these guys, Simone. I did an AMA with Fuji DAO the other day. Basically, what they do is they plug in with the various lending and borrowing platforms. They aggregate them and they ensure that you're borrowing at the absolute best rates. It's pretty cool. We have yield optimizers, right? So you've got your real complex, yield strategies like Yearn might deploy, right? Where they're doing X, Y, and Z to squeak out the extra percentage. And then you have some, your traditional auto compounders where you take your liquidity provider tokens and deposit them. They harvest at various intervals and they compound that into more liquidity provider tokens. Now, it should be mentioned, right? Like, my buddy Justin Bibas, he is one of the founders of Reaper Farm. We love Reaper Farm.
Yes.
And what's the best about Reaper Farm? And these guys can compound 20 or 30 times an hour for you. Whereas on Ethereum, no chance at profitability doing that, but because of the fees on Fantom, that's something that they can accomplish. We have an emerging and a booming NFT space that's happening over on Fantom. And what's cool about this, and I didn't realize this going into it because I was just kind of learning the NFT space, but Human taught me a little bit about this. And also, so if you want to deploy NFTs over on ETH, right, you're going to need a bankroll. There's really no two ways about that. And a lot of times, your best artists are not going to be the ones that are the most wealthy, right? They may not have that bankroll to start with. So what Fantom's doing is it's lowering the barrier to entry in that way, allowing everyone to come forward, present their art, create it as NFTs. And we have a few awesome marketplaces for them to do so. One of them being paintswap.finance, another one being arteon.io. And is there like a V2 of Arteon coming out, Simone? Or is that being
Yes, it should come out. It should come out this week. Now it's been this week for a couple of weeks, so I don't take my word for granted, but it should really come out this week.
Nice. And developer timeframes are never, you wouldn't want to bet the family on a developer hitting a time frame necessarily, anyhow. But all right, and then GameFi. Simone, can you tap on the GameFi a little bit? This is a massive area of expansion that's happening.
Yeah, so GameFi is this new sort of trend that we've seen really. Pretty much it started with the play to earn model that Axie Infinity launched, a few months ago, and we're seeing that. Of course, GameFi is one of those things that don't make sense on Ethereum because it's just too expensive and inefficient to properly run a nice gaming experience. So we're seeing that gaming projects and GameFi projects are actually branching out to other layer one networks, including Fantom. There's a couple of them. One is Julius King that we should actually deploy quite soon, if I'm not mistaken. Another one is Tank Wars, and there's a few others in the works that will deploy on Fantom. The reasons why deploy on Fantom is basically what we talked about so far. So it's the very fast transactions and the very low cost for the fees, making it really ideal to actually create a game and a sort of a seamless gaming experience without having to wait 15 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute for the transaction to clear, and also paying dollars and dollars that would basically make no sense because the players wouldn't make any gain with their play to earn model. So yeah, of course, games are not like DeFi protocols, so they take a little bit longer to quite a bit longer to develop, since there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of visual stuff, and so on. So time frame is a little bit longer, but I'm expecting to see quite a few games coming on Fantom on Q1 and Q2 2022, and then of course more after.
Beautiful. And one thing I love about GameFi, and I'm not, I'm not the big gamer, but my kids probably would be. And this whole play to earn movement that's going on, I think I heard somebody talking about it at the conference yesterday. There was some blockchain based games that were on here, but what that seems to be doing, the gaming movement around the world is like a behemoth, right? And I think a lot of what we've run into, a lot of roadblocks that we've run into in the blockchain space is like kind of bridging the gap between the real world and what's happening over on crypto. And I think the gaming space, just like NFTs have started to do, really has a good shot of kind of being the silver bullet to penetrate this massive market and bringing people into the crypto ecosystem to kind of show them how it works. And, you bring them in for the games, they stay for the NFTs and Reaper Farm, or something like that. So.
For sure, but I would expand a little bit on that, meaning that I'm not a big gamer myself. Actually, I'm not a gamer, and when I used to play games, they were mostly racing simulators back in the day. So quite a bit different from what people are playing today with the play to earn stuff, and also more like either the role playing games and so on. However. Certain types of games already had and have a sort of internal economy, right? Either official or unofficial, meaning that you could sell and buy in-game items, either, as I said, either in the game or on secondary markets outside. And the way that it's happening that was happening before crypto, and probably also now, mostly without using crypto. So you have to use other means of payments. And crypto basically makes everything more efficient and easier for gamers. They're already doing it, so now it's going to become much easier. And then of course, then there's NFTs. That NFTs can be integrated in the game. So let's say that maybe an NFT can be an avatar, and maybe that avatar can be not just be part of one game, but can be used and transported to a different game, bringing with it certain characteristics, for example. And this is something that it's not possible currently within the current, sort of gaming industry, so to speak, because every game is very siloed and very, a game is just a game itself. And whatever you do in that game, unless maybe if it's done by the same developers, cannot be ported to other games. And this is where actually this sort of the crypto Lego blocks and so on can be applied to gaming as well. And as you were saying, maybe it's not just going to be NFTs, maybe it's going to be also DeFi protocols. Maybe there's going to be some game that, besides having NFTs, besides having crypto as a method of paying for stuff, maybe they could integrate, a yield optimizer, so that, you can just think about it. I'm thinking about, an RPG game, you go to whatever, to this place, you deposit your tokens that you just earned by playing, you put it there. That would be like the Reaper Farm Tavern or something like that. You deposit, then you come back after a while, and those coins are more than what you deposited. So this is all possible. So I think it's the GameFi thing is going GameFi trend, the GameFi niche is going to be much bigger than what we can think about now, because it really, like everything in crypto, can sort of leverage that composability of all the open source and permissionless DeFi protocols.
Yeah, I think it's coming much sooner than you may think. I know there are a lot of projects out there. Like I'm actually spending a lot of time in the NFT space and GameFi, and like there are some projects out there like they are like starting to go like cross chain. I think what's the one? DeFi Kingdom.
DeFi Kingdom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they use like gaming and DeFi right together, and they are like going like spreading to different chains. I mean, just the other day I heard that they're going. Like they mentioned about going into AVAX, and then soon they'll be. I think it's only a matter of time before they'll like come onto Fantom, especially with I believe Fantom Foundation. I think was it a month ago announced this massive development grant program. So I could expect a lot of projects coming in. And Simone, maybe you can mention a bit about the development grant.
Absolutely. Actually, so yes, I agree 100% with what you said. DeFi Kingdom is great, and hopefully we're going to see it on Fantom soon. But going back to the incentive program, it's not really a grant program. Let me tell you exactly what it is. So first thing, it's a 370 million FTM incentive program. 370 million FTM. Well, now there's been big market crash, but still now, just quickly, roughly math in my head, we're still talking around $500 to $600 million for an incentive program. And it's one of the biggest, probably the biggest or the second biggest DeFi incentive program ever created. Now, there's a big difference between Fantom, the Fantom incentive program, and other incentive programs. Other incentive programs are, first thing, they're not transparent. They're very arbitrary, meaning that you as a DeFi protocol, you have to submit an application. The team that is giving the incentive, that is in charge of the incentive program, has to review the application, and based on their decision that really nobody knows what it is, they decide whether to give the incentives or not. And also, these incentives are generally used just for liquidity mining. So, you're, I don't know, Aave deploying on chain X, the chain X decides to give you the rewards because you're Aave, and of course, you're gonna, bring some users and stuff like that. So they give you those rewards to incentivize the users and, you know, to give it back to the users as liquidity incentives. However, on Fantom, it's different. First thing, Fantom is very transparent and it's very programmatic, meaning that if you're a DeFi protocol deploying on Fantom, you know that we have specific requirements within the incentive program that if you reach their TVL requirements. So if you reach those levels of TVL, total value locked, on your DeFi protocol, then you're gonna get the rewards. No matter who you are, no matter what it is, you're going to get it. So there's no decision making.
Or merit-based incentive.
Correct, exactly. There's no decision making on our end. Also because, you know, who are we to decide, you know, whether you should get it or not, right? So let's make the numbers speak. Let's make the users speak in terms of, in this case, in terms of TVL. And as you said, it's very, meritocratic. And the second thing is that the Fantom incentive rewards, so the FTM that protocols receive, they don't necessarily have to be used for liquidity mining incentives. So once the protocol receives the rewards, they can decide pretty much to do whatever they want, besides, of course, anything that is actually harmful for the network. But, they can use what we've seen actually so far, that protocols recipient, rewards recipient usually use part of the rewards, of course, for liquidity mining, part for expenses, part for treasury, part for growth, and so on. So this gives developers, a lot of flexibility, and also sort of shifts the problem of making the user stick to the protocols themselves, rather than make that stickiness linked directly to the liquidity mining rewards. So this is a huge difference that we see. We had once again a tremendous amount of really good and positive feedback from developers. And as you said, also actually the incentive rewards is not just for DeFi protocols, is open also to GameFi projects. And in that case, it's the metric is not TVL, but it's active users, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, you can go on our blog on fantom.foundation/blog, and you're going to find articles about both the DeFi incentive rewards and the GameFi incentive rewards. We're working also on the NFTs incentive rewards and the DEX aggregators rewards, and those will come, later on.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I really love how you guys really thought out the incentive program, right? And I know that I believe it was a Polygon that started with the incentive program, right? Yeah. But they were just giving it out to as liquidity to mining, right? And then every other project every other chain just copy that, right? But I love how you guys really do it, because I really thought about it and make it a merit-based system, because we are seeing, right, on some of the other networks, right, as their incentive program, as their grant program, it dries out, right? The whales who play in it, they just start rotating the capital to other chains, and it is starting to show that that original reward system, right, it's not working. It's only temporary. But I love how you guys are able to position the fund in a way that the developers have to be creative. They have to find a sticky solution, and that the growth is not dependent on just the reward, but it's on the creativity, the innovation within the project. So kudos on that for you guys.
Absolutely. And that actually, well, kudos to Andre, because Andre is pretty much the mastermind of the incentive program, of course. As pretty much everything sort of big picture related to Fantom, Andre is playing a really an irreplaceable role. Mm-hmm. One more thing that I wanted to add is actually, after the launch of the incentive program, we're really seeing a huge exponential growth on the TVL. And also now, I believe that Fantom is the network, the layer one or layer two or side chain, we can put everything together network with the lowest TVL to market cap ratio, meaning that market cap is relatively low compared to the TVL on chain.
Beautiful. All right. I didn't want to cut you off, Ed.
No,
all
no.
right. All right, man. All right. Where are we at? So, oh, unique community. Let's talk about Simone. We're filling up an hour. I can't believe we're filling up an hour, dude.
I know.
All right. So, 300
yet.
Hey, if you need me to shuffle through this to get to some Q&A, we could totally do that, Ed.
Yeah, we do 2 questions. But yeah, feel free to continue the community.
All right, cool. I think we're getting a little bit towards the end here. So 300,000 community members and a flourishing developer community. I don't spend a lot of time in other networks or other networks communities necessarily, just because Fantom is in the name. But I have noticed that we have an extremely dedicated community, extremely welcoming. What you'll also find is a lot of projects that appear to be in competition on the surface are very welcoming and open to collaborating with one another, which is nice. It just kind of makes for a soft landing for people that want to build on Fantom and for people that want to experience the DeFi landscape. And AnySwap, I think we talked about this earlier, right? They support hundreds of assets connecting Fantom to Ethereum, BSC, Polygon, Avalanche, Luna, Arbitrum, and OEC with almost instantaneous cross-chain swaps. Continuous development, improving the consensus with a focus on speed and storage. We did not get into the limitations of the EVM earlier. We probably don't have time to get into that, but the Fantom virtual machine, a next-gen virtual machine to overcome the current limitations of the Ethereum virtual machine to leverage the true potential of Fantom. And Simone, maybe you can remember when we were in Abu Dhabi, Andre gave a number, and I don't know if it was 10x or 20x or what the number was of the increased throughput with the FVM. Do you recall?
Yeah, for the FVM, it should be, well, very roughly, but it should be at least 10x.
Okay.
10x increase in throughput. Yeah. And
Beautiful.
the FVM is coming, let's say, late 2022.
All right. I'm going to hold you to that now,
Okay.
All right. No, I won't. All right. And that's it. A big thank you. All right. Q&A time. I love that we got through that. All right.
So we only have about maybe 5 minutes for questions. I've been searching the 10 tabs I have of the different social media sites that we're streaming this to, and I do have a few good questions. Here's an interesting one. So this is regarding Fantom token and the SEC. As we are aware, the SEC is becoming more trigger happy, right? So and this is what So I want to know. So what is FTM, the Fantom Foundation, doing in terms of being on the SEC's good side?
Ooh, that's the I don't know. I mean, we're very open to regulations, and because they're definitely good for the space. If there's going to be anything SEC related, we're going to be very collaborative, of course, like every other token and chain does. I would say that's pretty much it. Maybe implicit in the question is also the security question. Is the FTM token a security? Absolutely not. We have by now, I would say, a dozen at least of legal opinions around the world, including a couple from the US, saying that FTM is not a security.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also just the way that FTM token, like the whole infrastructure is structured, how decentralization is put at the forefront, right? How it's leaderless, right? I think it will give the FTM token a strong grounds for that is decentralized enough to be an official utility token. Yep. And then here's another question. I think this is more for someone who is more of a non-technical person. So if he wants to know what are the biggest NFT marketplaces on the Fantom network?
Sure. So we have a couple. I mean, Paint Swap, Finance is going to be a community-built NFT marketplace, and these guys are great. They are constantly innovating, constantly finding new ways of just making the user experience a lot better. And then we have artion.io, so it's artion.io, which it's going to have the feel of OpenSea. It is it's open source. Am I correct about that, Simone? Meaning people can come and build on top of it.
Correct. They can come and actually fork it and create their own marketplace. Yeah.
Perfect. And then I think ZooCoin just opened up a curated marketplace. Ovre? O-V-R-E? Yeah.
Yes.
It sounds like ovary, and I don't want to say ovary, but apparently I just said ovary on camera. So okay. But anyhow, that's what it sounds like. So those are really the ones we're working with at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty excited about the NFT ecosystem like on Fantom Network. I do feel that we are still at the beginning, that there's going to be a lot of great artists, great projects, and like coming in, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So we are getting close to the hour, and I really appreciate Simone and Austin for being here. Any final remarks you want to make before we wrap it up?
All I want to say is come check out Fantom. If you want to get into the Fantom community, there's two main Discords. The one Discord is going to be the Fantom Foundation Discord. The other one is going to be the FTM Alerts Discord, which is discord.gg/FTM Alerts. Come in there, get connected. Any help you need operating within the ecosystem, there are people there that are more than happy to help you through.
And if you're a first-time Fantom user, you can bridge your assets from, say, Ethereum through SpiritSwap as a bridge, and they will give you a little bit of FTM to cover your gas fees to do the first transactions on Fantom. Oh,
wow. That's awesome. I remember having trouble getting that first bit of Fantom to make my first transaction, but glad to see this has been growing. So, but once again, thank you, Simone and Austin, for being here and sharing with us. And thank you, everybody in the audience, for joining us.